Your phone buzzes at 11:47 p.m., a bank notification. You glance at it, then set the phone face down and keep watching TV. You don't open it until the next morning, standing in the kitchen, coffee in hand, half awake. $92. Interest payment, money your money made without you. You almost missed it, not because it didn't matter, but because it didn't feel like it mattered. That's the part nobody tells you. Wealth doesn't knock loud. It doesn't interrupt your evening or demand your attention. It just quietly starts happening in the background of a life that still looks exactly the same. You keep scrolling. You keep living. Nothing on the outside changes. But something already has. You've already started, you just haven't been told yet. Before we continue, please do subscribe to our channel, as your support motivates us to keep producing such videos. Sign 1 is quiet, and it happens before any of the numbers do. You stop flinching. There was a version of your life, not long ago, where an email from your bank made your stomach drop before you even opened it. A bill felt like a verdict. A number on a screen could ruin your whole day before it started. Now you open a $1,200 charge and just pay it. No spiral, no mental math at 2 a.m., no pretending you didn't see it. That calm feels like nothing. It feels like you just got used to it. But calm is not neutral. Calm is expensive. Calm is what happens after you've built enough of a buffer that money stopped being a threat. Think about the version of your life that used to check the account balance before buying coffee. That person is still in you somewhere, but you don't consult them anymore. You don't ask permission from fear before you spend on something small. You don't rehearse an apology in your head for spending $40 on dinner. This isn't confidence. Confidence is loud. This is something quieter. The absence of a flinch that used to be automatic. And here's what makes it strange. You didn't notice the exact day it disappeared. There was no ceremony, no milestone. One day the flinch simply wasn't there, and you didn't think to mark the moment because it didn't feel like progress. It felt like relief. Relief is not usually how people describe getting rich, but it's often the first sign of it, long before the number does anything impressive. The bills didn't get smaller. You got steadier. But steady isn't the finish line either. It's just the entry point to something you haven't noticed yet. But calm isn't the sign. What comes after calm is. Sign 2 lives somewhere you forgot to look. You have an account, maybe a savings account, maybe something else entirely. You opened it with a plan and a little bit of hope, and then you forgot about it. Not out of carelessness, out of trust. It stopped needing your daily attention, so your attention went elsewhere. When you finally check it, there's $18,000 sitting there. You almost don't recognize the number. It grew while you were busy living your life, answering emails, making dinner, forgetting it existed. Here's the part that matters. Boredom is not neglect. Boredom is often evidence. The version of your life that struggles with money checks every account every day, refreshing, recalculating, hoping something changed. That kind of attention is a symptom of scarcity. You watch it because you need it to move, but the account you forgot about? That one doesn't need your eyes on it to keep growing. It's working whether you watch or not. There's a strange guilt that shows up here, a quiet voice that says you should be more excited, more involved, more aware of every dollar. But excitement isn't required for growth. Interest doesn't check if you're paying attention before it compounds. This is what nobody explains about money that's actually working. It gets less interesting, not more. The exciting part, chasing it, stressing over it, tracking every fluctuation, and that's usually the sign it isn't working yet. $18,000 sitting quietly, untouched, slightly forgotten, is not a failure to engage. It's the opposite. It's money that finally stopped needing you. And the moment something stops needing you, that's usually the moment it starts to matter. Money that bores you is money that's working without you. Sign 3 is invisible, and that's the whole point of it. Everything you own minus everything you owe, your real number, has moved by $47,000 over the past year. Nobody in your life knows that. Not your coworkers, not your family, not the people who see you every single week. Your car is the same. Your apartment is the same. You still wear the same jacket you've had for 3 winters. From the outside, your life looks paused, but it isn't paused. It's compounding, silently, underneath a surface that refuses to change. Think about the version of your life built for appearance instead of architecture. The one that upgrades the car the moment the number moves, that needs the new watch, the new address, the visible proof. That version spends the $47,000 before it finishes growing. It converts the number into a look, and the look erases the number. You didn't do that. You let the number exist without translating it into anything anyone else could see. This is uncomfortable, if you're honest. There's a part of you that wants someone to notice, that wants the growth to be witnessed, applauded, confirmed by someone else's reaction. But the version of you that's actually building something real has to tolerate being invisible for a while, maybe for a long while. The two don't move at the same speed, the growth and the recognition. One always lags behind the other. $47,000 with nothing to show for it on the surface is not nothing. It's the entire foundation of something that hasn't finished being built. Real wealth doesn't ask to be seen while it's under construction. It asks to be left alone. Real wealth is invisible right up until it isn't. Sign 4 sounds like the opposite of getting rich. It sounds like turning money away. Someone offers you $3,000 for a project. Easy money, fast money, the kind you would have said yes to instantly a few years ago. You say no, not because you don't need it, because it doesn't fit the direction you're heading. It would pull your time somewhere that doesn't lead anywhere you actually want to go. There was a version of your life that said yes to everything, every gig, every side project, every dollar within reach, because turning down money used to feel reckless, almost irresponsible. Money was scarce enough that you couldn't afford preference. You took what was offered because you weren't sure more was coming. Saying no to $3,000 requires something you didn't have before, the quiet certainty that this isn't your only chance. That certainty doesn't come from a specific number in your account. It comes from trusting the direction you're heading enough to protect it, even when protecting it costs you money today. This is the strange part nobody warns you about. Turning down money can feel like proof you have some. Not because you're arrogant about it, but because scarcity makes you grab and you've stopped grabbing. The version of your life that took every offer wasn't wrong. It was doing the best it could with what it had. But you're not in that version anymore, even if your bank balance hasn't caught up to announce it yet. $3,000 declined on purpose isn't a loss. It's a signal, and sent quietly to no one but yourself, that you're building something with a shape, not just a size. Saying no to money is the strangest way to prove you have it. Sign 5 happens on a random Tuesday. Nothing about the day suggests anything is different. You didn't work. You didn't send an invoice. You didn't trade your time for it. And still, $340 shows up. Dividend, interest, some small return you set in motion months or years ago and mostly forgot about. This is different from every other kind of money you've ever made. Every dollar before this required your hours, your energy, your presence. This one didn't ask for any of that. It arrived without you. $340 isn't life-changing. It won't cover a mortgage. It won't fund a vacation. On its own, it's almost unremarkable. But look past the number for a second. Look at what it proves. You built something that keeps producing after you've stopped touching it. That's not a paycheck. That's architecture. The version of your life that only understood earning would look at $340 and shrug. Too small to matter, too small to notice, too small to feel like anything. But you're not measuring this by size. You're measuring it by what it represents, and the first proof that money can move toward you without your daily labor pulling it there. This is the moment the entire relationship between you and money quietly shifts. Before this, money was something you chased. After this, some of it starts chasing you back in small amounts without asking permission. It won't feel dramatic. There's no ceremony for $340 landing in an account on an ordinary Tuesday. You might not even mention it to anyone, but you'll remember the feeling of seeing it. Not excitement exactly, recognition. Like meeting a version of your future that already showed up early just to prove it was real. $340 isn't a big number. It's a small proof of something enormous. Sign 6 is a habit you dropped without deciding to. There was a time you measured your progress by looking sideways, at people falling behind, people struggling more than you, people whose setbacks made your own situation feel bearable by comparison. You don't do that anymore, not because you became a better person overnight, because that kind of comparison stopped being useful. It never actually told you anything about the direction you were heading, only about where you stood relative to someone else's stumble. Think about the version of your life that still needs that comparison, the one that feels progress only when someone else feels less of it. That version is still measuring itself against people it passed years ago, replaying old wins because new ones haven't arrived to replace them. You stop needing that. Somewhere along the way, your own trajectory became the only measurement that mattered. Not because you're arrogant about it, but because it became the only comparison that actually moves. There's a 5-year gap now between where you are and where you used to measure success. That gap doesn't need anyone else's failure to feel real. It's real on its own, whether or not there's someone behind you to prove it. This is quieter than it sounds. Most people assume ambition looks like reaching forward, chasing something ahead of them. But this sign looks like letting go of something behind you. The habit of needing someone worse off to feel like you're doing fine. Comparison used to feel like clarity. It wasn't. It was just familiar enough to mistake for direction. You're not there anymore. And you didn't even notice the day you left. Comparison was never the finish line. It was the fog. Sign 7 is the quietest one, and it's the one that ties every other sign together. You stop needing anyone to notice. Not the $18,000 sitting untouched. Not the $47,000 no one can see. Not the $340 that arrived without your work. Not the no you said to $3,000 that would have pulled you off course. None of it needed an audience to feel real to you. There was a version of your life that needed the applause, the comment, the compliment, the visible proof that someone else recognized what you built. That version checked for reactions before it trusted its own progress. You don't do that anymore. The confidence doesn't come from someone confirming it. It comes from inside a life that quietly kept working while nobody was watching. Here's the truth underneath all 7 signs. You were never becoming rich. Becoming implies you're turning into something you weren't. But this whole time, you were becoming someone who already knew how to hold money the right way, someone who was in you long before the $92 interest payment, long before the $18,000, long before any of it. Getting rich was never really the goal. It was the byproduct of becoming that person first, the one who doesn't flinch, who lets things sit boring and untouched, who says no on purpose, who stopped needing anyone to clap. The $92 from that late-night notification wasn't the beginning. It was the first visible proof of a decision you made long before you saw any number move. Multiply that decision by enough time, enough patience, enough quiet compounding, and the number stops looking like $92 or $18,000 or $47,000. It starts looking like a $2.3 million trajectory. Not a promise, not a guarantee, just the honest direction your quiet decisions have already pointed you toward. You don't need to feel rich yet for this to be true. The feeling always arrives last. The architecture comes first. If any of these 7 signs sounded familiar, if you recognized yourself in the silence, the boredom, the invisible growth, you're already further along than you think. Subscribe if you want to keep building the version of yourself that already knows how this ends.